Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode of the FTL podcast. That is short for the Love of Guitars, where we talk everything guitar related. Sometimes we get into stuff that is not guitar related. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. You know, life happens and we just kind of roll with it, right? Oasis had a song called Roll With It. And that was off their album, What's the Story, Morning Glory. What other song was on there? Wonderwall. And who performs Wonderwall? The wonderful Jeremy Lara. And he doesn't even have his headphones on, so he can't hear a word I'm saying. Way to start, Jeremy. Come on.
No, I can hear you. I'm switching to these. I'm on my speaker. We've got heavy echo already.
Do we? We have heavy echo. Okay. Echo. What?
I'm going to see if this helps. Hang on.
Let's hit mute and scene. Is this any better to the people at home?
Hang on.
Testing the echo. I'm relying on the chat here.
All right. Let me see if that helps.
Chris, Grease Monkey, Yard. He says it's better. Okay, thank you,
I think
Chris.
I was the problem by not using headphones.
Okay. Better is okay, but we want to make sure that Jeremy's not echoing and myself. Because we don't have Ubie on today, because here's the deal. Ubie pissed me off. He is a horrible person, and he came onto my podcast. He says it's gone. He came onto my podcast and he wants to tell me something. And all I want to do, tell me something I don't want to hear. You come on my podcast, you tell me what I want to hear. Am I right, Jeremy?
I think you do need to put someone's bitch hindquarters in their place.
Exactly. Sometimes
I said the B word, but I said hindquarters.
It's
That's
fine.
Great.
I got a Kirkland brand sparkling water here, and I'm just gonna enjoy it.
Yo, check it out! Vanilla Thunder in the house!
What? What the hell? I didn't put that on. Oh no.
You can't keep me out.
Oh no.
You can't keep out somebody who knows all of the digital foo. I just hacked your entire thing. I
Jeremy,
am completely and totally 100% in control of the broadcast at this point.
I thought I changed the Jeremy, did you change the password? We wanted to keep him out.
No, I left it the same as your luggage. 1, 2, 3.
Oh my god.
When your password is 1 2 3 4 5, it's pretty simple to get in.
Okay. So
guys, I need to apologize. I wanted you on speakers last week because of the head stuff I deal with, but it's what caused all the echoes. By switching to headphones, the echoes.
Okay.
I ruined the show last week.
Actually, the echo, I'm pretty sure, was that we didn't. It's actually on the mute in scene that Keith did there, because I think Keith's mic and the scene were probably doubling it up. But I couldn't say anything because you kicked me out of the show.
As soon as I switched to headphones, it went away. So it's gone for now anyway.
I told my lawyer, I was like, listen, I want you to send my co-host a very gentle and kind letter and explain to him that when he comes onto the FTL podcast, he cannot disagree with the host. Not at all. What did he send you?
Well, look, if you would have actually hired an actual lawyer and not a monkey, it might have been better, because what he sent me was a piece of paper with some crayon scribbled that said, "Hello, my name is Bingo. Can I have a banana? Eek, eek."
Oh my goodness. You know what? I'm going to have to fire my lawyer. His name is Ziggy. He's not doing a good job. But needless to say, who do we have here with us today? Besides Jeremy Lara, we have the not only famous, the infamous Ubie. Welcome to the show, Ubie. Do you get the reference?
Thank you very much.
You get the reference?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, I do. I absolutely get that. Right. I don't mind being the heel of this show. I mean, I have my own theme song and everything, so you're lucky I didn't just put a Titantron up there and just have it like a full WWE entrance. But I don't mind being the heel. I'll be the heel. I'm the good guy on my streams. I'll be the heel on your streams. That's fine.
Now I want to come in with a gong like The Undertaker. Greatest entrance of my lifetime.
That is true. The gong is right up there. That is
and
right up there.
Being there being there in the arena, especially early, back in late 2000s or even the mid 2000s, man, that was a spectacle
I never got to
for that
see it
entrance.
live. Did
They
they even see Stone Cold when they did the glass? I've never seen that live either.
Yeah, I mean, they only did the actual physical shattered glass for pay-per-views, but I mean it was a thing. I mean, it's the arena systems. Obviously, they have that massive front of house systems. I mean, these are usually big full arenas, and like when the glass would shatter, you'd feel that that compression hitting of the chest. It just was, and then everybody explodes. It was just amazing.
I remember when I used to live in Fayetteville, North Carolina. This is back in the Attitude Era in the mid '90s. And do you remember how the Undertaker had his brother Kane that would come on? He wore
Yes,
the mask.
Glenn Jacobs.
Exactly. So
Yep.
we went to they had Monday Night Raws there, and of all places, Fayetteville, North Carolina. This predates the hurricane. Is that who they're called? The Carolina Hurricanes. Is that who-
Carolina Hurricanes. Yeah.
Yes.
It predates them. We had our own minor league team in Fayetteville, and that's where they had the WWE matches. And it was a very small venue for like a Monday Night Raw, but it was really cool because it was kind of packed. Kane came out, and you know how he used to raise his hands and lower them, and the fire came out of the belt buckles on the corners, the corner buckles, whatever they're called. When those things went off, you felt the heat,
You
no
feel it.
matter where you are in that
Oh,
arena.
it is super hot,
It is
especially in a
loud,
tiny
yeah.
tiny building like that. Yes.
It was
I-
amazing. Yeah.
So there is an actual documentary called Brothers of Destruction on Peacock, and it tells the origin of Kane, how they came up with that character, and the reason he does this to make the flames go up was he wanted to be the opposite of the Undertaker, who does this to turn
Yes.
the lights on.
It was
And
on
it's
purpose.
Just the guys, everything was better once before.
I mean,
Psychology was so good.
I saw that Chris Nelson, CD Nelson said Elimination Chamber is today. So I've been so out of
Yep.
touch. I haven't watched any wrestling since it's been a long time. But this is kind of a tangent here. I went to school this is a tangent. This is not guitar related, but I went to school at Mizzou, University of Missouri, and in my apartment complex, he's a really good friend of mine. His name is Mike. And his brother used to live with him. His name was Matt, and he used to be. They're both wrestlers, and Matt was the wrestler Evan Bourne. I'm not sure if you guys know who that is. In the
I know who
chat.
Evan Bourne
Yeah,
is.
the clown Matt Bourne.
No, not Matt Bourne. Evan Bourne is totally different.
Evan Bourne was a tag team partner with Kofi Kingston, and they had the tag team
Yep.
belts. I used to go down to his apartment. I mean, hang out with that guy. I have Mike's shirt, his brother's shirt, and I have the Evan Bourne doll. I'm like, dude, this is my buddy from college, and he's got like a little, not a doll, but an action figure. And I'm like, I have one of those. It's so cool.
Kofi Kingston is next level athletic. For
Both
a
of them,
skinny dude, good grief.
yeah. That was
Well, Evan was cut from the same cloth, so
yep.
Really?
His name Evan Bourne because he looked like Evan Bourne. His name is Matt Corkland. He's a Jewish guy from St. Louis. Cool people, fun stuff. But we're here to talk about guitars, and I do have
talk to guitars, not wrestling.
Sorry.
I mean, I can go on. Look, wrestling was huge when I grew up. My dad used to buy us all the pay-per-views, and like in my opinion, the greatest match was the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan WrestleMania. One of those matches, I forget which one. That one was like a 45-minute match, and I think Ultimate Warrior won. It was really fun.
Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair. Greatest match I've ever seen in my life.
Ric Flair.
Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. It was, I can't even remember when it was, but it was unbelievable. They memorized 50 some moves. So
We can combine them, guys. It's not that hard.
There we go. We got the championship belt right there. I think they should give out championship belts instead of trophies for the World Series.
you're wearing
in
too
hockey.
many clothes.
I'm wearing way more muscles than I really have. See, I predate you all. So I was actually Dallas. Denton County specifically is the home of WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling, also better known as Fritz von Erich's promotion, which would then be the Von Erichs, which is David,
Royalty.
Kevin, and Kerry, all of which We know because my in-laws went to Lake Dallas High School, which is where they went as high schoolers, and so they actually were family friends. I've actually had where as a kid, I was actually able to go out to their actual ranch, swim in their heated pool, watch them working out actually on a ring there at the ranch. I mean, it was like literal adjacentness. I was what you would call a smart mark back in the day. So I wasn't smartened up to the business at the time, but I knew that the business was more than what was actually out there.
The smart mark. That's great. I love that you have all that lingo not locked down. That's smart. I've never heard smart mark before. I've heard mark, but I've never heard smart mark. That's awesome.
Knows
Yeah,
just enough.
there's a level between somebody who was smartened up in the business and was actually still a mark. That's just somebody who knew that it wasn't fully what you saw, but was not actually smartened up and actually brought into the business. So it's an actual term.
Speaking of smart mark, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up the
Like
kind
my
of
underwear.
main discussion here of today is Gibsons. So, and the reason I say Mark is there is a video that Rhett Scholl put out. Rhett Scholl, I guess that's how you pronounce it, put out. Gibson's biggest problem isn't the price. That was the theme of his video here. And for those of you who don't know who this guy is, if you don't tune into some of the bigger guitar related YouTube stuff, he's been around. I guess he got his big break during the COVID era. He started slightly before then, and he rode that wave, and he hit it big. He had a couple videos that hit it big. One was what is the orange sound, with orange amplifiers and that type of stuff. That one really hit it big, and he's got a big following. He's in a band now, and they just got done touring in India, China, and Australia, and this guy, like, he's big enough to the point where he can just tell Sweetwater, and this is what he does in this video here. He tells Sweetwater, "Hey, I want to send me some $4,000 guitars, and let me make a video of it, and I'll ship it back." And they're like, "Oh, sure thing." And they send him, $4,000 Gibson. I think he has a Heritage on there as well, and a Duesenberg. I've never heard of Duesenberg before. That seems like a brand that you might know, Jeremy.
Yeah,
And
I love Joe Walsh's signature is a Duesenberg.
right, and they're pretty. I'll bring up a picture of him here in this video, if my internet doesn't crash if I do it. But let's see here. But it's a really cool looking guitar. A McCarty, a Duesenberg. Here's the Duesenberg. I'll bring it up there.
Beautiful.
It's a really cool looking. So basically, what the impetus behind the video was, he got, I think, 4 or 5 different guitars that were close approximations to a Gibson Les Paul, and just played them side by side and just kind of doing a shootout between them. But the video wasn't really as much about the shootout as about it was for kind of critiquing Gibson, which they've had their fair share of issues as of late. As of late, meaning for quite a while now. A lot of it is perception, and that's the point of the video, of the same kind of deal where a lot of people hear Gibson, Les Pauls, and they hear PRS kind of in the same vein of lawyer guitars, dentist guitars, collectors guitars, of people that buy them because they have the money but they don't know how to play, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to, basically the point is, you have to be rich to afford a guitar like that, or have some kind of windfall, or be in debt or something like that. It's something to strive for. And then the question
Or
is,
steal one.
or you could steal one. Let's not go that route, Ubie. I mean, come on. I kicked you
Look,
off
there's a
already
lot
once.
of musicians, especially in the '80s genre that I like, that picked up their guitars by taking an empty guitar case to a guitar store and walking out with a guitar.
Well, and the Les Paul, honestly, remember it initially flopped, and they hired Les Paul to come in to combat the Strat. And he said, "Okay, let's make the tuxedo of guitars, something that looks beautiful." And at first, it did not do well because of the price. But when guys from England came over and saw them in pawn shops, guys that were fans of Les Paul and Mary Ford, they were buying them for $100. Then they got popular again. Gibson almost died multiple times but it was that the British guys finding them in pawn shops that brought them back to life. And one day, Joe Walsh gave his spare Les Paul to Jimmy Page, and there you go.
I mean, that's why I'm glad that I have you on here. You know a little bit about the history there. I mean, let's just. I think the messaging thing here was the biggest kind of point of contention of what is Gibson marketing? Why are they so expensive?
So, you guys know I developed a guitar for a U.S. company,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it is a terrible flop. But the premise was, and this was before shutdowns, we wanted 100% American-made guitar. And the cost, and I mean the cost of the guitar before you put a margin on it, started at $1,500
Yeah.
to get the parts together and the labor. So in the end, those guitars came out of the custom shop at a cost of $2,000. That's before markup. That's just the reality of paying someone a living wage and using as much American material as you can. So Gibson can do it cheaper than that because they bring trees into their warehouse, literal trees, and they start at a place where you're not buying, timber from a processor. But even at then, right now, the price after COVID of lumber went up 300% in the first year, and it's gone up since then. So the cost, I'm actually amazed that the guitars cost what they do, but it's because they have so much raw material, but they're cutting corners in other places, which is what we're going to talk about. To make something in the USA with USA material, you're already, and you want people to be able to pay their rent, to pay their bills. You can't compete when you can pay someone $1 a day overseas.
Right.
You just can't.
I think
You kill yourself.
yeah, a part of I think a part of Red Shell's video that he brought up here, and he actually made a follow-up video because people were telling him he was wrong about something, and he had to address it, but it was the price, right? I think Gibsons have always been expensive, even when they first came out. I think they were $250 in the early
They're like
60s.
3 times the cost of a Fender.
Right. And if you, for the cost of inflation or rise of inflation, whatever number that they found out, that Rhett pulled from, it's essentially the same. $250 back then is equivalent to this $25.99 or close enough back then now. It seems a lot more unattainable now, not just because of the dollar amount and inflation, but just because people don't make as much money as they used to. The cost of living has gone
Wages
up.
have not risen with inflation.
Exactly. The
Inflation
wages,
since 2019 is 27%.
right. And
People's
wages
wages have not gone up 27%.
You are, let's keep it into percentages. 100%, Jeremy. Correct. Wages have not kept up with inflation. That's why this seems way super unattainable than it was before. Because you could have a cashier job or whatever, a construction job, things like that in the 60s, and be able to afford a house and be able to afford your TV and recliners and have a car with an average person's job. Now that's just not the case. People just don't get paid enough money, and then this is a luxury item. And the problem that was brought up in the video is Gibson is positioning itself as a luxury brand instead of a player's brand. They're not positioning themselves as this is a guitar that you want to play, like Fender. You buy this guitar, make music with it. Okay, they're not cheap, but they're also not this expensive. They're not something that you. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, what Robbie just said is true. It's the cost on a Gibson standard Les Paul is not out of line for what it costs to make a Gibson standard Les Paul. It's not in line with what your average player is going to be able to afford. But that's the entire Gibson mantra, is that they're trying to be the Cadillac of guitars.
Right.
So price point is actually a selling point for a Gibson. Now, whether that's a good marketing strategy or not is a completely different conversation, but that is what they position themselves as.
Right. And that position, it goes right back to the whole doctor lawyer kind of fiasco there.
Can you guys excuse me for 2 seconds? I
Yeah,
used to turn my camera off. Hang on just a second.
yeah, you go and do your thing, but I don't know, like if what can you get? And on top of that, a lot of players are moving towards Epiphones instead, but even Epiphones, those prices are increasing too, and I'm then you got the quality thing. A lot of people have issues with the quality of a Gibson. Not we have the jokes about the headstock. You just look at it wrong, and the headstock is just going to fall off, right? And it's just notorious for that. Okay, I'm not counting that, but I've never had a Gibson before, so I'm not sure of what kind of quality issues that they have. I just really haven't. I went to the Gibson garage in Nashville not last year, but the year before, and I played a Gibson Les Paul, a nice one, just quick, and nothing. It didn't seem anything more special than my Diamond that I got there, which is all that I would need in the same type of guitar. I'll go ahead and grab it here, but I mean, what is it that these have that an Epiphone doesn't?
You gotta the thing that you played there though, you got to question, was that an actual is that a guitar off the line, or is that actually a guitar that was set up? Again, you can have a very expensive, well-made guitar, but if it's not set up, it's not going to play that great. It's not going to be anything special.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked about going to my uncle and I had wanted to go to the Memphis custom shop for Gibson. And you talk about the differences, and in the end, you don't know if these differences make a difference, but Gibson has clung to some of the building practices of now, 70 years, more than that, since the 1950s. So 75 years, right? And one of the things they have are literal trees on a spit that when they do their laminates for a 335, it shaves the board. It's a 5-piece laminate, and they want a specific combination of woods for that laminate, and they do that all in-house. So it's super expensive to make a guitar that way. Yep. And to bring in choice select mahogany, to bring in choice select maples, things like that, there's a cost all along the way. If you got to look at it at wine, like most of us will never drink a real glass of wine because real wine is fermented and it takes multiple years before it's ready to drink. The stuff we have is usually loaded with sulfites and other stuff where you can make it in months by the gallon. But real wine from a French vineyard is hundreds of dollars a bottle that has no sulfites in it because it takes time, and time is expensive. And that's what you're paying for, in part, is labor and time.
Yeah, it's that. And I want to share one more thing here. That kind of is proof to the point of how Gibson is messaging themselves, because like you said, it would be was it the Cadillac or something like that?
Yeah, they position themselves as a Cadillac of guitars.
Look at this. This is Gibson's website, the collection with Slash on the cover, Slash, the notorious guy that plays a Gibson that's not even a Gibson. $1,000 for a coffee table book.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who's buying that?
People with $1,000 to wipe their butt with.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I definitely am not, based off. I'm not. I mean, I'm a poor bastard. But so I'm clear. I'm not any guitar maker's demo. But I mean, even you guys, somebody like you who has a stable job, a really good job, a wife who has a good job, house, those sort of things. You're not that market. You're not the market for this for this here either. They have a niche, very niche market. Now, a lot of us think that market is guitarists, but it's not. It's collectors. Collectors is Gibson's market. That's their primary main market for Gibson is collector level people.
Which is sad because I mean we see so many of our guitar heroes. I mean, this guy's here's on the cover. We got Slash. A lot of people love Slash. Brant, I think he likes Slash a lot. He plays a lot of Guns N' Roses stuff. And obviously you have your Jimmy Pages, like what Jeremy mentioned. 2 Yards is a huge fan of all the Jimmys. Eric Clapton played Gibsons. He started out with an SG, I believe, in Cream.
The Fool.
The full,
That was the
right?
name of the artwork on it. Yeah.
Um, it's the thing that gets me. And look, Martin is the same way. I don't think to maybe to the same extent. I the quality of a Martin. I don't know. Acoustic guitars is just a different beast in general. I can understand why acoustic guitars could be that expensive. I think
I
they're
could
still
tell you
way
blindfolded when you're playing your Martin. It sounds like an orchestra. It's that I could see putting money into that sound. It's
right.
amazing.
But is it worth 30 something $100?
If you can't get it anywhere else, I've never heard a
Yeah.
guitar sound like a D28 other than a D28.
Right. I
Just
mean,
to be
and
fair.
that was when I went to the Gibson garage, and to your point, Ubie, earlier, was that guitar set up and I played that Les Paul. I didn't really give it too much thought because I wasn't there to see their Gibson Les Pauls. I knew those were unattainable. I wanted to go into their acoustic room, and I played a ton of those. And I have a video that I played a lot of their more famous, the hummingbirds and the what are they called? I forget. Gosh, J45, J35, and all that stuff. Everybody in Nashville plays that has an acoustic plays a Gibson that I saw. They're not playing Martins. They're playing Gibsons. It's a and the, they're either playing Gibsons for acoustic guitars or they're playing Telecasters, and I don't see anything outside of that really. I was not impressed with their acoustics. I know that there's a lot of people that love the Gibsons a lot more
I
than
like
they
the
do a
hummingbird
Martin.
quite a bit.
They're fine. Maybe I just need to give it another. They just sound like any other guitar to me. But this is 100% bias. All my favorite players play Martin guitars, but back to the point. Martin kind of falls in the same category where it's just like, oh, what are you? But I think more people are apt to buy a Martin guitar than they are for a Gibson, because essentially Gibson has Epiphone. You could buy something that plays and sounds probably the same as a Les Paul
Yeah,
or a Gibson.
especially the inspired by line on Epiphone. It plays very, very much like a Les Paul, and it's a lot cheaper
Right.
because it's still basically made by Gibson. It's just they cut the bells and whistles out of it. There are less physical hands on that guitar, but it's still the same process they used to make the Les Paul, and just in a stripped down version.
Yep. I don't know. I mean, and the thing is, they have that brand. It kind of undercuts themselves, kind of the same way Squire does to Fender. But take it as you will. You know,
Well,
Martin
and
doesn't
we're
have
about
the
to
same
get
thing, huh?
we're about to get to a really interesting point of why Gibson has the trouble they have, and the irony of the fact that Epiphone has a more consistent quality. And I think I have reasons for that when we'll talk about it. But because you're sticking with this old school style of building, because that's part of what you're buying is the story of the guitar, you're not taking advantage of technological advances that cause much more consistency model to model, if
Right.
that makes sense.
No, and that kind of bridges right up against a point that Brian, searching for tone, made in the chat. He says, when you get a Gibson, you realize you only need one Les Paul. When you own a Firefly, you want five. Um,
When I saw that, I thought that was the smartest thing I've seen in a year. Like
um,
I can't believe how well he spelled that out. Because you do want, when you get an inexpensive guitar, you want multiples of it. I
right.
do.
Um, Probably because you could probably buy 10 Fireflies for the price of one Gibson.
20,
20
maybe
Fireflies.
30.
Because you're pretty much broke unless you got Roy Gaber's credit card after buying a Gibson Les Paul. But I get it. I mean, look, there's a point to be made with the quality. I mean, you have Murphy Lab, right? That's their top of the top type of deals where they will take things, and it's a topic or of discussion maybe for another time or maybe today. I don't know, but Murphy Lab, where they take, all the era kind of stuff, build it, and then they do the what's it called, nitro finishing, so they can, and then checker it, so they could do a lot of that. What's it called when they
Oh, like the road worn, distressed finishes.
exactly, they do all that, and then there's that even had a huge problem because I stopped frequenting the gear page, but every time I went on there for a period of time, people were just complaining. The main complaints were Martin D28s, the binding coming off of the D28 after a few years. That's a common issue, and that sucks. It's going to probably happen to my guitar, and for spending that amount of money, you wouldn't want something that stupid to happen to it. But then for the Gibson, the Murphy Lab stuff with the nitro finishes is completely flaking off and being defective and not really relicking is what that was the word I was looking for. Thank you, Rob. Where the nitro finishes weren't even already there, and those people are paying upwards of $10, $15, $20, $30,000 for those guitars, and then you get them. It's just amazing the amount of money people are willing to plop down on a guitar, myself included, in at least one circumstances when there's probably something wrong with it. It's going to need a setup. I don't know. It's a complicated subject. I really don't have an answer to it. I mean, I think if you want those guitars to be put in more people's hands, the prices are going to have to get cheaper. And if that means not being built in America, they're just always going to stay the same. I don't know, unless they've already went bankrupt, didn't they? Didn't they just got
multiple times? Yeah, they are another, and their bankruptcy is what caused Guitar Center's bankruptcy. That's how big it was. It literally almost took Guitar Center and Musician's Friend completely down.
Can you elaborate on that? Because I don't know the backstory.
Absolutely. So Gibson has a very expensive model. In around 2010, if you were a Gibson dealer, you would fly down to the factory and hand pick your inventory. You didn't order it off of a sheet. So there was a place called Cardi's Music in Ypsilanti, and I talked to the owner. They would bring all the store owners in, and they'd show them all the Les Pauls they'd made, and depending on your number, you got to pick. So this owner went through and he picked the exact inventory, picked it up, listened to it, said, okay, this one is special. Sounds a little warmer than that one. That's what we're coming from. And that's incredibly expensive. So what Gibson did is they changed their model to, if you were a distributor, you then had to buy, let's say, $100,000 in inventory every year, regardless.
Shit.
So if you didn't sell the year before, they would authorize you to do a sale at below cost to get rid of last year's inventory because you had to buy the same amount. And that's what put all the small shops out of business.
That is such bullshit.
It is absolutely, and Fender did the same thing. So when Fender would say, we just had a record year, that's what they sold to the stores, not to people.
Right. Yeah.
Because their quotas were so high. And this put all the mom and pop shops out of business, essentially. So Musician's Friend had massive inventory of Gibson, right? Well, Gibson ended up needing to collect to pay their bills to try to avoid bankruptcy. Musician's Friend does net terms of COB 90 or 120. So by the time like a Rob Chapman sends him their guitars, they don't get paid for 4 months. All right. So you have to hold the fort for 4 months. But Gibson said, no, you're going to pay us now. So Musician's Friend and Guitar Center had to pay all their Gibson bills. Gibson still declares bankruptcy. Then that causes problems for Musician's Friend because their debt's been collected on. They had to come up with all that capital, and that put the hurt on everyone else. So then when Guitar Center declared bankruptcy, places like Chapman Guitars didn't get paid for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. Think of what that does to your business. How many of us could go a year without getting paid? But that was the cost for doing business with Guitar Center and Musician's Friend. So the trickle down was Gibson had to collect on all their debt, and it wiped out the cash reserves of everybody else.
Yeah. You know, and it's a sad, man, this is so sad because TR just mentioned before the internet, there was nothing but mom and pop shops, and you had the catalog from Musician's Friend. And that was the catalog you got in the mail that everybody drooled over. I don't remember. You guys remember East Bay where they had the baseball bats?
Chicago Music Exchange, Sam Ash.
Well, I said East Bay, which was another kind of, that was more popular in school because East Bay was like for sporting stuff, right?
Oh, see,
Remember
I don't
that?
know.
That's not in Crutchfield were audiophile stuff, and then you had Musician's Friend. Those shopping catalogs, awesome. But I didn't real. I really the ignorance of myself did not understand or realize that you had to, in order for a guitar store, mom and pop shop, to be able to sell brand new Gibsons, Fenders, Taylors, Martins, whatever, you have to be a dealer. In order to be a dealer of that, you have to buy a certain quantity, and those quantities of guitars are, it's ridiculous amount of money that they want you to spend on that as a mom and pop shop. So what are they going to do? They're going to take out a loan just to become a dealer of something, and then hope that they can get rid of that inventory overhead and all that stuff. And I learned a lot of that stuff by listening to Phil McKnight, because I had no clue. I would walk into mom and pop shops, look, okay, and just naive me. I want to test out a Taylor GS Mini and go into a random mom and pop store. Okay, they don't have anything but Alvarez acoustic guitars here. Why don't you have Taylors? Why, where's your Martins or whatever? Oh, we're not a dealer. Okay, well, you guys suck. I didn't know anything better. It's like, why don't you become a dealer? And then it's nuts the amount of money that they want you to spend, especially.
Yep.
And annually, and the thing about the inventory. So I started watching this, and the reason I had a Les Paul with P90s is because I knew right at NAMM time that all the stores would clear out their old inventory for below the map pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to get a Les Paul Studio 50s Tribute gold top with P90s for $899.
Wow.
It had been $1,500 the week before. That's
It's-
less than the company paid for it. And each year I would just wait for that. When the new models released, all the stores had to get rid of their inventory, and they needed the cash.
And that whole situation is similar to the automobile industry. You just wait for model year clearance because they've got to clear out the model years that they have left over because they've got new stock coming in they've got to put in. Now, it's a slightly different chain, obviously, because of the way the dealership model works, but it's the same premise as far as from a consumer standpoint. That's exactly what you used to do. You would wait for that particular time period, and you could definitely pick up stuff at what would be considered crazy prices.
Yeah, better than what is it, the A plan, Ford A plan, or what is I can't remember the names of those things, but cheaper than the employees would get it for, basically.
Yeah, the employees, because we have
Exactly.
Ford factories here. They build the Ford Escape here in the trucks in Kansas City, or at least they used to. I don't even. Yeah, there's still a big plant here, but yeah, the Plan A or whatever. Oh man, there was something on my mind about this whole thing, but it kind of left my mind. So,
Guys, give me 2 more seconds. Hang on just a second. Hold on.
oh yeah. What I was gonna say was the fact that, again, this goes back to Phil McKnight and talking about not only Gibson but Fender, right? I'm not sure if Gibson sells direct on their website, but Fender, they do. They send direct. They sell direct. Apparently, I haven't been on their site, but this is what I heard from his thing there. So they're requiring mom and pop shops to spend a certain amount of money to be a dealer, and they're undercutting them right away by selling them at the same price, if not lower, directly on Fender's website. And if you are a consumer and you want to save money, and the store needs, they want a better profit margin. They want to make profit. It's a mom and pop shop, but if you want to save money, you're just going to go ahead and get it direct from Fender. So that's another kind of shitty thing that they did.
Yeah, but by the same token, you're saving money by purchasing an item sight unseen, especially in an instrument, and in an instrument you're spending some decent money off of. You're gonna tend to kind of want to be able to play that instrument before you buy it, which is where the shops actually still have an advantage that you can't get over the internet. But for the value conscious people, you roll the dice. Okay, if I get one that's not great, at least I can maybe I can send it back and have them make good. But that's a headache you're willing to take for that cheaper price.
Exactly. Yep. nail on the head there. I mean, that's the one advantage that you have for going into a Guitar Center, which there's so many mom and pop stores that have closed down here in Kansas City, and it's depressing to me. Really depressing. There used to be one right up the street from where I live. I used to get all my stuff there. I even bought a guitar from there. I used to go there to get setups and all that. And then I left. I live in Lee Summit, Missouri. I left the city to another adjacent city, so I haven't been there for a while. When I moved back here, it's closed down, and I'm like, what the hell? Where am I going to get my strings? Because I always used to buy my stuff directly from mom and pop shops, because not only did I want it, to support them, it was convenient because I could just drive up the street and buy whatever I needed right now instead of ordering
Did you have
and
a
then
store where you
waiting.
could buy one string? Like
You
I
know,
remember those days where you
yep,
could buy just E string.
yep, that, I want to talk about pickups after this because I have a little story about that. Because when I got my first guitar, it was my mom ordered. I want to tell my mom I wanted a guitar, and as many '90s woman. Oh gosh, this sounds so misogynistic, but this is only true, I guess, in my case. She watched a lot of QVC, and there
There's nothing
was
wrong with QVC, man.
there's nothing wrong with it. We had a lot of stuff from QVC, but she ordered me an acoustic guitar off of QVC, and it was a piece of shit. And I even knew that when I got it and played it. And I never played a guitar before. I was like, Mom, this isn't gonna work. So we got a refund on it, and we went to the local
Was
shop.
it an Esteban?
I don't think it was an Esteban. It's something. It was.
It
I
was a
don't think it was
Glary
an.
before Glary was a
Yeah,
company.
it was something like that. And
Private label Glary.
so we went up to the local shop. And this is in North
So
Carolina,
proto Glary.
and for the Glary. That's our battle cry, for the Glary. And so I got a Honer acoustic guitar. I still have the guitar. It's an awesome little guitar. Not little, it's a Dreadnought. That's what got my whole love of it. But every time I broke a string, I didn't know how to change strings. I didn't know how to do shit with the guitar. So my mom would take me up to the music store, and they would sell me one string for like a nickel. And I didn't know how to string it up. And they'd put the string on, and I would do that every time a string broke, which is freaking hilarious and thinking about that now. And eventually this one older guy was there at the counter. He was just a customer. He was like, I wanted to buy a G, a broken G string and replace it. And he was like, well, you could buy that, but you should change all the strings, because if you just change that G string, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb, is what he told me. And that quote has always stood the test of time with me. And I was like, I had no clue. And then so he taught me right there at the store how to restring everything, and I string it exactly the same way. This is
What's that, man?
oh goodness, yeah. But yeah, they would sell you one string at a time. And the funny thing is, the store had no problem whatsoever selling me that one string. It's for a nickel or whatever it was. They didn't
Yep.
tell me. I remember I went there
Probably
once.
the most generic brand, right next to the cartons of cigarettes with the blue label.
Hey, what do you know? I was like 14, and it was like, oh,
Buying them in
okay.
bulk is what's going on. So yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
buying them in bulk and doing whatever. That was freaking funny thinking about it now. And then I remember going to that store again because they would have people come in and kind of give clinics. And this guy came in, and this is me after only having had the guitar for like a few months. I was like, okay, they're gonna teach us how to play guitar. We sat in a circle. This guy was showing everything. He's like, okay, so now we're gonna go into Lydian mode, but for this, I'm gonna tune my guitar to this. He was just tuning everything by ear, just changing all the tunings, and I'm like, is this what it means to be a guitarist? I have to know how to do all that. So it just completely threw me for a loop. And I was like, I'm just. And at that point, I went home and I printed out a shitload of tabs on my mom and dad's dot matrix printer of Oasis songs, and I was like, I'm just gonna play chords. I don't want to learn.
So you guys have seen the pictures of that guitar store by me. It's got the two giant Les Pauls at the door,
I don't.
like
No, I haven't
frosted
seen it.
swords.
No.
All right,
I've
I'll
seen
send
the
you,
pictures.
I'll send it to you. So their last clinic, they get really good people up there. Their last clinic was Paul Gilbert. It was
Oh
just a
wow.
couple years ago. I missed it, but also Dave Friedman from Friedman Amps comes through Michigan all the time, and they'll show up to that store. They love it there, and you can hang out with Paul Gilbert, Dave Friedman. It's always someone like that that's super in love with the guitar. I think they had a Steve Vai clinic, and it's usually free.
Was Steve Vai actually there?
A couple years ago, this was
Holy shit.
pre. But Paul, I actually was more excited about the Paul Gilbert one because Steve Vai is so untouchable.
Yep.
Because my lawyer said I can't touch him anymore. But Paul Gilbert is super accessible when it comes to like guitar nerdery. Just really interesting dude, and I hated missing that one.
Yeah, Steve Vai, I would have loved to see him. Steve Vai is the impetus for the name of my channel, For the Love of Guitars, because he has that song, For the Love of
So
God.
beautiful. His music is so next level.
Yep, that is a genre of music.
Mm,
A
yes,
genre. Yeah,
I didn't think about that. And Steve Vai's the guy that made me want to play guitar
yeah,
from the movie Crossroads with Ralph Macchio.
absolutely. And then I was in high school, my sophomore year. We were in the weight room because I was played baseball. I was never really that good, but they let me on the team. In the weight room, they were playing Alien Love Secrets, that album. You know that album?
No,
It has
in the
the
weight room.
Alien Love Secrets is a Steve Vai album, and
That's
the
crazy.
song Bad Horsey. Do you know that song?
Yes, he still
That
has that
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 song is
guitar it's based on.
Yeah, that song is on Alien Love Secrets, and my only experience with Steve Vai was from the movie Crossroads. But then whenever I heard Bad Horsey come on in the weight room, I was like, "What? What are you playing a Crossroads soundtrack?" Because that's almost the same song as he plays in the movie. And I was like, "What album is it?" He's like, "Alien Love Seekers." I'm like, "What? Alien Love Seekers?" So I ordered the CD. I forgot how I ordered it because I don't think you could have just walked into Sam Goody's and found Steve Vai album. At least I don't remember. CDs were so expensive back in the day, man. It was $20 for a CD. You remember
Yeah, I
that?
paid $20 for mine.
It was freaking ridiculous. Neither here nor there. But we are getting close to an hour, but I did want to hit up Ubie, and I want you to school me on active pickups. This is a subject I really don't know much about. I mean, I don't know what they are. You put a power. Do you have to use a battery? Is that how that works? Is it preamp? Why are they so
Yeah.
awesome?
So basically, take the most articulate pickup you could ever think of and multiply it by 1,000, and that's what an active pickup is. So it uses it literally uses a preamp, instead of just letting the passive signal go from the string into the pickup and then down the chain. It uses literally an actual a physical preamp to preamp it from the guitar. So it picks up everything, and any nuance you have, any little bit of a microtonal change that you have, anything like that, gets literally amplified. So that's why you see it in things like, especially like metal and chugging metal and those sort of things. It has some of the most articulate sounds that you're going to have. It's one of the reasons why a player like say Zach Wild, he everything he plays has just those monster squeals from his pinch harmonics, and you if you've got just a standard passive pickup and a tube amp, you're like, how in the hell does he do that? Well, that's how he does it. um you can strike a very poorly hit pinch harmonic and it goes, oh hey, there's a transient here, we're going to bring that way up for you. So what that also does, just so you know, is every little mistake that you make that wasn't much of a mistake suddenly becomes a massive mistake. So it's super duper clear. It's like it's kind of in a way it's a little bit like compression in that it will pull up all the little bits that are there that just you don't normally have enough of a signal to really hear on a passive pickup. So is it a better pickup? Is it a worse pickup? It's just like any other thing in the guitar world. It's a tool in your toolbox for sound shaping.
Right. Yep. Just like Ted would say, it doesn't matter. You do it. What out of his quote? It's perfect the way you like it. It's perfect the way you like it, Jack. You do you, Jack. I don't know. I mean, that sounds like it would terrify me, which is, and because of the fact where we talk about any mistake that you make is amplified with one of those, because it's just bringing everything to the forefront. This is why I play mostly clean, because I want to hear my mistakes. I don't want them to be drowned out, because I put out a recent short where I took that diamond, threw on the is that what it's called, the OCD, Jeremy, the one that I got from Johnny?
Yes. Oh, yes. The
Oh,
OCD
dude, it sounds
germanium. Oh,
so good, dude. That hooked up
oh.
this guitar, this diamond has Seymour Duncan pearly gates in it, and they
Mm.
sound like shit without any pedal in front of them or after it or whatever. It just doesn't sound good. The humbuckers, I think, were made for distortion. I mean, it sounds kind of like a jazz guitar almost without.
Oh, so
Is
it's
that?
too much mud, kind of what we were talking about
Yeah,
pre-stream.
I don't know. I mean, these are supposedly pearly gate Seymour Duncans are, and I won this from Fret Knott, Brian's best friends, um, and I don't have any experience with humbuckers prior to that, really. And I was like, this is unimpressive because I play mostly clean. That's where the single coils come out.
And
Throw that
it,
LCD in front. Sounds amazing.
yeah, and that's because the LCD is doing some EQ shaping on it, so it's actually
Right.
helping you with those because in a really good pickup, whether it's an active or a passive, is going to pick up a bigger spectrum of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to get everything you want and more of what you want, but also a lot of stuff that's going to be in frequencies that you don't want. So you actually have to shape those more. Usually, it depends on the pickup, obviously,
Yeah.
but you usually have to shape those more than you would with a lower quality pickup because the lower quality pickup generally doesn't have as broad a spectrum as sound
Mm-hmm.
as that you're picking up.
Yeah, and I think, and to the point of that was throwing the distortion in front of it. That fixes a lot of things there as far as the sound. But this is why, like, I told Brant when he was starting to play Telecaster, I was like, "Welcome to the world of Telecaster, where you're gonna automatically think you're the worst player in the world because it's really hard to play those things, especially clean, because you have to get everything almost perfect in order to sound good and not out of intonation, or you're just bending the strings too much, because you can get away with a lot of that stuff if you throw pedals in front of it or throw up the amp distortion, and it takes a lot of like
You think I play with
finesse.
so
Yeah.
much distortion and high gain and shimmer on my stuff?
um
Have you seen the active tele pickups out of EMG?
I
They're
did not.
actually pretty cool.
I'd be interested. EMG makes them.
So yeah, and this was my other side of this. So active pickups to me came from Les Paul's studio work. If you guys ever saw the Les Paul recording model, it's got what I consider to be the first EMG looking pickups in it. They're slanted and covered, no pull pieces. And what he did is he needed lo-fi pickups so that they were dead quiet in the studio.
Mm.
And one
Mhm.
thing EMG does, because even Steve Lukather had a set of single coils, is they can be dead quiet for the studio. And in the 70s and 80s, that became more and more and more important. So there's this other benefit of you can create all these sounds, single coils, humbuckers, Alnico ceramic, and you can do it without any hum. And the articulation and EQ abilities. So if you guys go to Guitar Fetish, GFS, they have their own brand of active pickups, and there's little switches on the back. You can EQ them. You can EQ a treble boost or a bass boost on the pickup itself after you install it. So if you want a little more low end on those
What?
pickups, you just pull it out, click that switch. It's
You could
incredible how
individually
flexible.
EQ the pickup, and these are
Yeah.
Telecaster EMG pickups.
Those ones are Strats. There are Tele ones too. In fact, I think Guitar Fetish has active Tele pickups as
Oh,
well.
okay. And maybe I missed it. Do you have to put a battery, like a 9 volt,
Mhm.
in your
Yeah.
Yeah, an
guitar?
active has to have a battery.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what an active is.
The only thing that scares me there, yeah. Were you
Well,
gonna say
Fishman
something?
just upped the game with it. Remember now they're making what look like regular single coil pickups for Greg Koch and a few
Mm-hmm.
other people. They're actually active, and they program the voicing. So instead of coil wraps, they're using circuit boards, and each pickup can sound like three different pickups. You get a humbucker that sounds like a ceramic, an Alnico, or a P90, depending on
Jeez.
where you flick the switch, and no hum at all. But it's on a rechargeable battery.
Call me old fashioned. Look, I
You're old
love
fashioned.
techno. I am. I love technology. I'm in the technology, profession, and all that. When it comes to my instruments, I don't want. I use tube amps, analog pedals, and
Your
dynamic
tone is
mics.
amazing, Keith. It makes
But
me a little hot.
no. It's just it is what it is. It's only as good as the chain. But it's all analog. That's just what I like because it's easy for
You
me.
sound amazing, dude.
I don't want to think about or turn on my computer to play my guitar. This is why I have a lot of acoustic guitars. But
If I had thousands of dollars in space, I would recreate my chain with analog.
Oh
It's
wow.
not that I'm specifically picking my chain because it's digital. My chain is picked here because I don't have room for an amp, I don't have room for pedals, and I
right.
don't have money for an amp, and I don't have money for pedals. Every single thing that I use in my chain right now cost me $0.
Right, and that there's a beauty to that because what you play sounds freaking amazing too. I just do it for the simplicity. This is all I know, and I just never really adopted all that other stuff with the digital stuff. I did a little bit back in the day, but I play mostly my acoustic guitar anyway. But you mentioned something, Jeremy, about having the very very quiet pickups, right? And this is something I noticed from my very first, my Strat, which I play all the time, and it's my first electric guitar, and I still own it. It's my number one. You put the pickup selector at, is it out of phase? I don't know,
Yeah,
between
out
the
of
neck,
54.
then all the noise goes away from whatever you're getting, right? And the same thing, that's why humbuckers don't create all that noise. Then you go back and you listen to things like Jimi Hendrix. You listen to Creedence, right? I guess he used a Gibson. It's talking about people, but a lot of the stuff that was recorded back there was dirty. Even the Beatles, they didn't play to a click track, so their tempos. Even Guns N' Roses in the '80s, they didn't. Their tempo was all over the place. This is something I think is missing, and a lot of people think the same way with modern. Everything's just overly produced, and it has to sound perfect, and you can't have any background noise or hiss and all that stuff.
Painful.
It's just you're losing a little bit of soul, is what I'm getting out, and the AI thing is not really improving that, in
Well,
my opinion.
so that one recording studio I've ever recorded in, that Pearl Sound Studios in Michigan, like Ted Nugent recorded there, the Eagles recorded there,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll let you rent time there. They have the original reels to several songs, including Bohemian Rhapsody. Somehow they have the original reels to that. And he played me the reel, and I could hear Freddie Mercury lighting a cigarette,
Uh huh.
listening to things, and you could hear the pedals when he let them up on the piano, the thud
Uh huh.
noises. So when they digitally remaster, they remove all that stuff, which I think is a shame. But it was like, oh my gosh, he's blasting it. And I hear Freddie Mercury cussing under his breath because Bohemian Rhapsody was so hard to play. It's it was the most beautiful thing in the world to hear all that stuff. I wish we could hear more of it.
Yeah, I mean, I just got done reading this book. Jeff Emmerich, the Beatles engineer from, I believe, Rubber Soul Revolver on to the last albums. He went on to work with Paul on some Wing stuff. Said that he just mentioned so many little nuances in the songs that you wouldn't even know unless he pointed it out. It was like John Lennon said this in the background. You could hear it if you're paying close enough attention, or Paul said this at the end, or whatever. And one of his biggest laments was when they remastered a lot of that stuff, they took a lot of that stuff out. The countdown for A Day in the Life, where Mal is counting down or counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up. And then they have the alarm clock bell, like that transitions the song, which was there by accident, but they just wanted to keep it in there. But they edited a lot of those little things out, and it's a shame. And he says that sucks. And then back then you had the whole mono mix versus stereo mix, because nobody had stereos, but they didn't care about the stereo mixes. They made everything sound perfect in mono, but then when they re-released that stuff and remastered it, they're remastering and re-releasing it in stereo, and the stereo mixes were not the original intent on how those songs are supposed to be heard. So a lot of the stuff is lost there. But the point is we get to a point of fidelity. I mean, do you like that little extra stuff? Are they gonna add like things to modelers that simulate? I think they are doing that. That'll simulate like a tube sound and
All the
little
imperfections and
all the
things.
imperfections and things like that.
Well, that's actually why I use NAM models instead of an actual modeled amps now, because NAM models actually they're not, obviously it's not perfect. It's not a physical amp there that is going to react slightly different each time that you play through it. But what it does is it actually is a recording of a specific amplifier at a specific group of settings under a
Yeah.
specific cabinet with a specific microphone distance. And it plays and the way, I mean, just to let you know how they work, is they play a specific spectrum of sounds through that setup, so that it knows when the frequency is at this level going through it, it sounds exactly like this. And that's how the model works. So that means all the transients, all of the little squeaks and stuff that would never exist under a mathematical amplifier trying to pretend to be a mathematical piece of software trying to pretend to be an amplifier, these things still go through. So it gives you a less, what I call a sterile tone that you get with the modelers that are model as opposed to a capture. And so that's actually why I use the NAM modeler. I can build a chain. Just hit my mic. I can build a chain that will use one of these mathematical modelers. And I have to do things like I have to add fake tape saturation into it. I have to add other effects into it to make it not sound as sterile, because when you're playing music, especially through an analog and especially through a tube amp and those sort of things, is that it's not going to sound the same every single time that wave goes through it at that goes back to the same. And you can feel that even it's so minute that you can't actually hear it, but in the overall feeling, that becomes part of the fabric of it, part of the texture of that sound, and you can tell the difference. And that's the truth.
Remember that the pedal, that the blues driver that Johnny 3-Bar built me, he has the biasing switch on it, the biasing knob. That came from Eric Johnson, and Eric Johnson has ears none of us have. I just can't hear what he hears. But he would sit down before recording and match the tubes in his pedals to the tubes in his amp and keep switching them until he felt they were consistent, because he felt like he could hear if he's using tubes in his pedal that clashed with the tubes in his amp. He hated it. So he would sit with drawers full of tubes and just keep swapping and checking until there was a consistency. I don't think I'd have that problem. But for him, it made all the difference in the world. So they developed that biasing switch. We have the sag control in pedals that simulates a dying battery, because some distortions had that great, especially the grunge pedal, I think. When the battery was dying, the clipping turned into this like harmonic filled nightmare that sounds amazing. So you want to get those back, and a dying 9-volt battery is hard to simulate if you're not using a battery.
That is so interesting. I mean, and to that point, and to what Ubie's point is, this is the problem with analog is, it's like you said, Ubie, it's not going to be exactly the same every time. I kind of feel like my tone out of my rig, I could pick up the guitar, use it one day, and it sounds freaking awesome. Start it up tomorrow or the next day, it's just not having a good day. I don't know what it is. And then I end up having to fiddle with things and all that. It just doesn't sound the same. I think, there's good days and bad days with the amp or the guitar. I mean, the guitar to less.
Power grid. Whatever's happening to the electricity
exactly in your house is like, am I playing it? Is it sounding awesome when everybody's out and I'm the only one in the house and not using up, the washing machine is
difference.
The washing machine's not on, everybody's TV's not on. It sounds, I don't know. It's just so much different. And you don't have that issue when you're going digital. So there's a benefit there. You just got to kind of catch lightning in a bottle when it comes to this stuff. And I kind of lament some things. This is my first real 100% tube amp, this Princeton. But, right on a Discord, I'm asking, I was like, is it normal for the, reverb when I'm putting it up to make these weird noises and all that? And so the funny thing is I got on the phone with Sweetwater they called me up because I just emailed the guy. I was like, hey, I want to change out a cable in the back from the reverb tank into the actual amp because maybe there's some RF interference or something. I want a shielded cable. And then he just called me up. He was like, what's wrong with it? We'll fix it for you. I'm like, hold on a second. I don't want to send it in. I've been through this whole thing before. I just want to try out the new cable and all that because, and when he called me up, it stopped making the freaking noise. It stopped acting funny. I was like, all right, well, apparently it's
That's
waiting.
standard.
Right.
That's normal. You take your car into a dealership or a mechanic, and it'll stop making the noise. That's how things work.
It pisses me off. And then in the middle of the night, all right, I'm popping it up or whatever, I turn it on, and it's making noise all to hell for hours. I'm like, what the hell's going on? That kind of stuff pisses me off. But that comes with the territory, and I know that going in. I don't want to send it in. But then again, you got to think, it's like, whatever. Just spend money on it, and it's still in the warranty. And that's the beauty of the I'm not shilling for Sweetwater, but I got this from Sweetwater, and they put that mod in the mid-range control knob in the back. It's a common thing, but as soon as you mod an amp, it's out of warranty with Fender.
Yes.
So the advantage to them modding it is now it's under warranty through them for 2 years. So they are responsible for fixing it. And
Ubie, you're killing me.
what did Ubie say on there? You guys don't pull your smoke detectors off
terrible.
in the...
That's the only way to keep them from beeping. I mean, you haven't seen how you haven't seen how I cook, so I have to do that.
I love cooking with cast iron skillets, and there's no way of getting around the smoke detectors going off whenever I
Fried
cook
chicken
steak
out of an iron skillet is
and
so
fried
good.
chicken, all that stuff. And it's just I had to get those filters or whatever and open the windows. Even that doesn't help. But oh god, yeah, it's cast iron skillet. Are you guys fans of Curb Your Enthusiasm at all? Have you seen that show?
I've seen some of it.
Yeah, I love Larry David's writing.
Oh,
I
God.
haven't seen a ton of
There was an episode at the beginning of season 6. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. And the smoke, how it was just going off, and he couldn't figure out where, it makes those beeps when the batteries are going out, and then eventually he had to track it down, and he got sick of it, and he just freaking took a hammer and just hammered the whole thing off the wall. It's like, fuck this. And at the end of the episode, the house burns down because right underneath it, the trash can caught fire because Vivica Fox puts a cigarette, and full circle, we're talking about smoking. She puts a cigarette in a trash can, or she puts a cigarette out on a cake, but it didn't go out, and he throws the cake in a trash can underneath the smoke detector that he destroyed, and it burns the whole house down. Yeah.
All I can think about is how much I'd have to just cut off so I could still eat that cake. I want cake.
For legal reasons, so that we don't get Keith sued, I do not personally advocate for you throwing away your smoke detectors. That was said as a joke.
Yeah, or your cake.
The funny thing about the cake was it was a penis cake.
Throw that cake away.
He got the cake from an erotic bakery, but he loved it so much, and it was in the shape of a penis, and he accidentally brought it to a little girl's birthday party.
Be very careful what part of it you cut off.
Well, if it's a bris, you just have to work on the end.
Yeah, it's a very Jewish show. I think it's shill time. Jeremy, what do you have going on?
Tomorrow morning is my live stream at 10:30, the Acoustic Sunday, and I owe a demo video for a mini amp. I'll hopefully have it out this week. And I'm just about 500 watch hours away. I just passed 2,500, so
Good.
Just working it.
Very good. Let's help Jeremy out. I'm about 40 something hours away, but I don't.
It's so close, man.
It's so close, and it's frustrating. Brian, before we get to you, Brian just said, "Never put your oily rags in a pile in a corner." That freaks me out. I don't know what to do with the frickin' rags. And I actually have texted Brian, and I texted BCG Chris, because I was using some finish to finish a door, and you're left over with all these rags. I'm like, what do I do with them? I don't know. Sometimes I would just leave it out in the driveway to let them dry out, and then do I just throw them in the trash? And they were both telling me, just throw them and just wrap them up in a grocery bag and put them in your normal trash. I don't know how all that works. It scares the hell out of me working with stain and all that. But yeah, don't throw your oily rags in a pile in a corner. I think linseed oil is one of the biggest offenders that'll spontaneously combust.
Yep.
So I just won't use
Really?
linseed oil. Yeah. You dump them. Use linseed oil on a rag. If you just crumple the rags up and put them in a trash can, they'll combust. I don't know what you're supposed to. You soak them in water, maybe. I don't know.
Yard said put him in a little jar of water.
Yeah, in a. Okay, that makes sense. Not empty your pickles out. I don't know. Ubie, what do you have? How many live streams you're going to be on? Or do you have all that planned out for this week?
So just till the wheel fall off. Same. There's no change in my pattern whatsoever. Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday 7 p.m., Wednesday and Friday at 10 a.m. And I'm also contractually obligated to say, Keith, every single thing you've said on this entire podcast has been wrong.
Okay, I think what we'll do to remedy that is not have you on the next podcast, and we'll replace you with I don't know, somebody a lot cooler. Yeah, somebody.
That bar is not very high. You can pick anybody out of the chat, and they will be way more cool than I am.
Well, anyway,
you can put a fern. You can put a potted plant in my place here, and it would be more cool.
Brian says soak in water or hang so they don't cause friction and compression, and that makes sense. Is when you crumple the things up in that.
Yeah, the
just soak it in
friction is
water.
what causes it.
Just soak it in water. I think the same thing applies to fire. Why is this? Be cool about fire safety, right? What was it, Smokey the Bear?
That's what we can do. Your next podcast is not even going to be about guitars. It's pure fire safety. We'll have Brian on. We'll do PSAs. It's your community involvement.
Right. I mean, look, there's some value in there, especially for the folks that are in this group that do a lot of work on guitars, and Ted is doing a lot of finishing work. So maybe that'd be something that he'd want to share and have Brian on. I'd be interested in that myself, because that's stuff that I don't want to burn my freaking house down. Anyway, let's just go ahead and wrap it up now. Then you guys want to head with your shills. I have a premiere out tomorrow, and this one is dedicated to Ted from Ted Talks Guitars for no good reason. He's a good guy. I play a song on there that I think he wanted to play. So that's all I have for this week coming up, and maybe a short here or there. So be sure to check out Jeremy's stream tomorrow morning, Ubie's stream every single day of the week, Ted Tuesday, Brian Wednesday, and everybody else. That's all I have. So I hope you have a wonderful